everyone. My name is Saira and I'm sitting with the Masters in Management Student Ambassador team from London Business School, and we're here to talk to you about the GMAT. Well, so we're going to start off by introducing ourselves and then get right into discussion. So, as I said before, my name is Saira. I'm from Pakistan. I study business at the Institute of Business Administration in Karachi.
Hi, I'm Ollie and I'm British and I studied law at Nottingham University.
Hi, I'm Martin. I'm from Slovakia and I did management in Nottingham as well.
Hi, my name is Maximilian. I'm German and I studied business administration in St. Gallen, Switzerland.
Hi, my name is Angel. I'm from Hong Kong and I study psychology and economics at Barnard College, Columbia University.
I'm Mike and I did a double major in biology and business at Cornell University.
Okay, great. So we're talking about the GMAT today, and how many of us had never heard of it before?
Before coming here.
Yes, before actually applying to LBS.
Oh, never. Oh, yes.
Okay, so you...
Well, I was aware there were
Yeah.
admissions tests, but I wasn't, familiar with the GMAT or exactly what it entailed until I looked into applying to London Business School.
So what were you expecting more of? Because I know for me I was expecting more of a math test. That was my first impression going in, researching. What were you guys expecting?
Kind of like for those of you from America, like the SATs.
SATs,
Yeah.
yeah. So when taking a step back before applying, when you started studying for the GMAT, what would you say is the best time to start?
It's a difficult question. I think that depends on how your habits are. If you're best under pressure, you should leave it up to the last moment. But I personally took 2 weeks in advance, and then try to do as many questions as I could, or
Right.
as I felt were necessary.
And I think it takes more time than you think it will. So if you are that kind of like perfectionist person, you should leave yourself a lot of buffer room, because it's going to take longer than you think it will.
I think we also need to recognize people have different backgrounds. So like people who major in math, of course, is going to find the math section easy, but people who haven't done much math lately, then they may want to spend more time on that section, for
Right.
example.
Yeah, I think it definitely is. It's definitely very individual. You should look at the questions and see. Maybe talk to some people, and then based on that, make your decision when you want to start, how you want to do it, because it can be very different even among us.
So keeping that in mind, what was the most helpful test preparation strategy?
Practice, and then practice some more.
Yeah.
I found the simulation test really useful because, well, if you take the individual GMAT questions and give yourself unlimited time to tackle each of them, you'll find them not very hard if you've done enough preparation before that. But I think the difficult part about GMAT is actually to work under time pressure, because it's a long test. It's 3 hours long, and you only have like 2, 5, or 10 minutes break in between. So you really need to get used to working under time pressure, and then also have to get some practice in how to allocate your energy and tackling different questions of different difficulties.
Right. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, it's just the time management, I think, is the biggest challenge, because you're not used to solve all the questions. The questions itself, especially the math part, I think it's middle school math, so it's not really complex. You can solve every question if you have the time and if you're like in a good mood or whatever. But solving them under 2 minutes or like 1 minute 30, I don't remember, is the biggest challenge.
Yeah, and for me also, I had to take a step back and review my concepts of basic numbers and basic integers, because some of the questions are test your very, very basic math, and a lot of us have forgotten it, so it might be a good idea to look into that perhaps. Coming back to the test, what was the hardest thing about it?
I think
once you've done it?
Skipping a question, like personally I hate to skip a question, but sometimes it's like when you don't know it after 2 minutes, make an educated guess. Try to cancel out answers that are not in the range, and make a guess and go on, because at the end I think you're even penalized heavier for not finishing the test than having wrong answers. But that personally I hate this, so I lost a lot of time at one point.
Right.
Yeah, I think one of the most difficult things is to get into the mood of being able to solve those problems, because some of them are quite different perspective on, for example, the quantitative bit. It could be different as what you've done before. So being able to solve those problems really quickly and going through many examples really helps you to get into that mood and get into that motives of solving those problems.
What about you, Ollie?
Personally, my difficulties were pretty much solely maths. I was quite comfortable on the verbal and in the analytical writing section, which most people forget about, having done a law degree. But the maths required me to do a lot of preparation, and I had to retake the GMAT, and the first time I did it, it was a big shock, and I found that part of the test really difficult, ranging from just not knowing the algebra to finding it difficult to do questions that look new to me in the allocated time.
So what would you do differently if you had to take the test again, or as you mentioned you already did take
The third time.
Yeah, so what did you do differently? What helped the second time or third, what didn't help the previous times?
Well, the first time I took it, quite frankly, I didn't do enough preparation.
Okay.
And the second time around, I really, focused purely on maths.
Right.
Made sure that I first reviewed all the topics so that I actually had the base level of maths required for the test. And then after that, I just started practice questions. So
Focusing on the weak areas then.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
What about you, Angel? What do you think?
I think probably two things. Number one, I probably did more simulation test, just because, like, for me, it's the most helpful in preparing for the test. And secondly, I think I'll probably try to get. Now that you've done your homework, you've done your preparations, and you actually go to take the test, what surprised you at the test, if any? Ollie, you want to start?
Yeah, sort of going back to something you mentioned earlier, the simulation tests I found significantly easier than the test on test day. And I'm not sure, but I think that's because on test day it adjusts to how well you're doing, and the simulation tests have a question bank that are largely all medium difficulty questions. So having done a couple of simulation tests, I was a lot more confident than I should have been coming to take the actual test. So it's a bit of a shock, the level of difficulty.
And also the actual time pressure on the day of the test, it's so much different than if you want to practice for it, you can, but you can never really simulate that, the actual feeling of being in the test and having to sit there for like 3.5 hours. So, however well you can simulate it, you should try to, do that, because that's really different from what you can do before.
Okay.
And this is going to seem like a really small thing, but during the test day, I wish I had brought a watch with me, because you're not actually allowed to bring anything into the test room, but you're allowed to leave it in the locker boxes, and you get a 10-minute break. And I didn't have a watch, so I just I couldn't even go outside. I couldn't get any fresh air because I didn't want to come back late and then have it eat into my test time. So I wish I brought a watch to take out with me and then But also leave yourself plenty of time to come back because you have to scan your hand.
Right, that's very good too.
Yeah.
And well, now that we've taken the GMAT, and do you find any benefits that you've gained from the experience of preparing for a test and taking it?
I'm probably one of few people that have, just because I had to learn maths all over again. So yeah, I've got my maths slightly more up to speed than it was than before than last year before I had to take the GMAT.
I think two main things come to my mind. First is very related to what Ollie said, because I'm applying to consulting firms, and a lot of them have entrance tests, which are very similar to GMAT. So it helped me there, A. And B, again, in terms of job applications, the GMAT is a good measure in which you're at par with your colleagues, and the companies have something which they can compare all the students again. Your GPAs might differ, your universities might differ, but the GMAT is a standard measure. So if you shine in the GMAT, it can really be a strong thing. So I think that's a benefit.
Yeah. I remember when I was applying to jobs and grad school simultaneously, and whenever I go for interviews, they look at my resume and be like, "Oh, you did really nice in the GMAT. Congratulations." So I feel like that kind of helped me out a bit.
Okay.
I think it definitely helps, as Sarah mentioned, when you apply for consulting, that the companies sometimes really look for you having taken the GMAT, because if you haven't done that, then they can't really tell whether you have good quant or not, and GMAT is taken as some kind of benchmark of a good quantitative skills.
Even
so
time
I guess
management.
it definitely,
Yeah.
it shows a lot of skills that you can use in practice, and they know about it, so it kind of gives you a good thing you can put in your CV.
Yeah, I think also a hidden benefit is because the GMAT score is good to use for 5 years. So if later we want to apply for MBA and our GMAT score is good enough, then we won't have to take it again.
Yeah.
I think if you're lucky enough and all of you doing that, then my GMAT score will go up at the end of the year.
Okay, well, so do you guys have any last minute advice or something that you wish you had known before you got into the whole GMAT thing?
Knowing about the GMAT itself and scheduling the appointment for the GMAT early enough so that in emergency case you could even retake it. So that leaves you with a good state of mind.
Something I wish I had done was when I was done with the test, the practice test, and I was reviewing it, I was focusing on the questions I got wrong. And I hope I focused equally or slightly less on the questions I got right as well. Because that would really know where I strengthen. And I think that's a good thing. Maybe that would be a tip going forward, that review the ones you got right as well as the ones you got wrong, so that it solidifies your concepts.
And also maybe review the basics of the maths and also of the maybe sentence structures, because you can never know. You may think that you know them, but you may be wrong in some of the things. So you just going through some simple guides may help you to get really, as Sarah said, whatever you get right, you may not get it right next time. So just be sure that you know everything that you've done.
I think as well in the verbal part, there's no right or wrong like in the quant part. So sometimes I just learn like what they want to hear and how they think. I looked at the answers and I realized that it's always it's a certain mechanism behind it, how they grade the answers. That helps definitely, or help me.
Well, I have a personal story. Actually, I think I would strongly advise anyone who's taking a GMAT to read the instructions before you go to take the test. My personal story is that I am a Hong Kong national, but then I was taking a test when I was studying in the US, so I took it in New York. And when I went in, I brought my national ID, and I was told that I have to have my passport in order to take this test. And it's not refundable, so I basically wasted preparation, also $250. So strongly advise read the instructions before you take the test.
One more thing I would say is if you have time and if possible, try to get in the test mode a week before the test. For example, if your test is at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., try to do the test at the same time a week before, because the GMAT is a lot about mental and physical resilience. And I think if you can get into the zone, it can really. A lot of us come from non-business backgrounds and some of us come from business backgrounds. So was the test different for those who came from non-business backgrounds? And then we can talk about the ones who came from business backgrounds.
Well, having done a law degree, for me, I think, as I mentioned earlier, the difficult part was the maths. And I had to completely relearn I suppose the sort of maths you do when you're 17, 18, all over again. So, it's quite beneficial for me to relearn all of that. But yeah, I think it was an extra challenge.
And I think actually coming from a science background actually helps with the GMAT, because like a lot of the readings come from just random sources, and sometimes they come from science sources, and just remember like one reading I had was on blood diseases, which was like, yeah, I did a paper on that. That's cool. I know that.
In terms of business students, did you think the test was easier for you because you were a business student, or?
I don't think so, because it's, as we said, it's a math part and a verbal part. The verbal part has, I think, what is it about? They have science tests, they have business tests, and they have also some social science tests. So it's, if you read the paper every day, in English, obviously, then that helps you more than anything else. And for the math section, it's just like middle school math. It's not about, they won't ask you.
It's more about trying to see how you think, and also getting into the mindset that the test maker is trying to get you into. Like, for example, when I was preparing for the essay part, I was thinking, wow, this is like, correct me if I'm wrong, this is something that lawyers are really good at. It's just like about like making up arguments and like finding supporting evidences. And that's like the data sufficiency, which is about how to look for information that you need to get to the answers that you want to have, which is very different from how we tackle problems and how we think in a day-to-day basis. So I think in that sense, having a business background will not matter less than how much you practice and how much you're used to getting into that mindset.
Okay, thank you so much for tuning in. If you decide to apply or have any other questions, please feel free to contact us. And on behalf of London Business School, good luck.